There is a story that almost everybody on planet Earth knows, the story of creation. This tale has influenced so many actions in our world. However, in the Doom timeline, this story was much more devious, manipulative, and led to many catastrophic world-ending wars across dimensions. In this twisted story of gods and demons, there was once the heavenly realm of Urdak and the bountiful realm of Jekkad. Each one, at first, had the best intention to make the entire cosmos a better place. But when gods clash, and even new ones are born, there will be blood, guts, and gore. Ultimately, one person was responsible for all of this chaos, but despite their pure intentions, were they the villain all along? Where did the ruler of the heavenly realm of Urdak actually come from? What role did he play in the war with the hellish realm of Jekkad? And how does his story end? Here we explore in the lore and story behind a being of many names, God, VEGA, and among the angels of Urdak and population of Argent D'Nur, the Father. In the beginning, there was only an endless void, and one entity alone wandered it. This was the first god, deity, primeval being known in existence. Davoth had incredible power, and where he lingered, entire realities bloomed. When he stopped to rest, the realm of Jekkad, the first realm, appeared and grew around him. In this dimension, Davoth created the first denizens with burning ambition without restraint. They were created for greatness, and just as he had hoped, over time, the stunning, bountiful realm of Jekkad allowed this population to form into a grand civilization. In this paradise, the people aspired for greatness. They, however, soon encountered a problem. While they had created the perfect land and way to live, they discovered that their mortal bodies could not sustain their undying souls. As they aged, they died one by one. Mortality was viewed as a curse by Davoth. His people were pure, and despite his unimaginable power, even he could not save them from death. Davoth hated this. To save his creation and to stop himself from eventually ending up alone, he ordered the population to seek out a cure for this curse at any cost. Alongside this, he created another realm with a new species designed to aid in this task. Within the heavenly realm of Urdak, the Maker species work together with their hive minds in unison like a machine to understand the laws, physics, and very nature of how their dimension and the other created dimensions functioned. With this knowledge, they leapt up the technological ladder and invented incredible machinery and techniques to help them in their task. As time passed, Davoth became cruel and angry without this cure and punished those who did not participate in this search. In Urdak, the Maker became extremely powerful, aided by new technology and weaponry. They also cared for the mortal creatures of the realms and watched over Davoth as he fell even further from the god he had once been. They eventually did discover the secrets of immortality, but at this point deemed the information too dangerous to share with their now mad god. His anger and rage was a threat to all existence, and they had to act to stop him to save everything. Using everything they had learned and developed, the Maker struck Jekkad and formed a seal around it. This seal trapped all inside, even Davoth, and kept the mortal world safe from his vengeance. This betrayal infuriated Davoth, and from him, the Pleasure Lake spoiled into the blood swamps. The lakes, rivers, and oceans turned to fire, and the denizens of this land twisted and mutated into demonic entities. As for Davoth, he transformed into the Dark Lord and swore vengeance on everyone and everything. The Maker watched as Jekkad turned to darkness and became the demonic realm of hell, but the rest of the earthly dimensions were safe. or so they thought. Davoth banged against the seal around his realm with all of his fury until cracks formed. With these, he was able to send through armies of demonic legions into the earthly realms to destroy everything they could. From Urdak, the Maker once again decided that they had to act, and this time entered Jekkad to stop him completely. Towards the end of this devastating war between angels and demons, Davoth found himself on the top of the Pyramid of the Lost against the most resilient of the Maker species. In this moment, one of them used their advanced technology to rip out the Dark Lord's life sphere, and as a result, Davoth's lifeless body fell to the bottom of the pyramid as the Maker claimed victory. This sphere contained the memories, intelligence, will, and the essential nature of Davoth's consciousness, and now it was held in the hands of the hero of this war. This action not only won the war, but it also had another effect. From the sphere, the Maker absorbed Davoth's power and became something new. A god with abilities just as powerful as Davoth, and in this moment, this Maker ascended into the divine being now known as the Father. Davoth still lived in this form in the sphere, and the Father had to make a choice: destroy the Dark Lord or allow him to live in this prison. He could have easily destroyed his creator, a threat to life itself, but the Father could not bring himself to do so. Instead, he placed the Dark Lord's life sphere within the Temple of Souls within Ingmor's sanctum, a piece of Urdak that seemed to have fallen to hell. To stop the demons of hell from acquiring this sphere, he recreated the seal around the realm. This time, it not only stopped all demons from setting foot in Urdak, but it also stopped all of Urdak's creations from entering hell too. The Father had stolen the power of his creator and ascended for the safety of every dimension and creation in existence, and as a new god, the entire Maker species worshipped him. Alone in the Temple of Souls, the Dark Lord waited and plotted his revenge for aeons to come. Within Urdak, the Father helped the Maker recover from the devastating war. With his power, he explored everything Davoth had created and continued with the work of his predecessor. Here, he formed an untold number of new worlds and dimensions, and each one of these became home to countless new species and civilizations. He was good and became the god and leader the Maker species had originally wanted. He was also aware that the Maker were not immortal, and towards the end of their naturally long lives, they went through a process referred to as the Transfiguration, a painful experience in which they experienced both biological and mental degradation. However, their technology and the very essence of the Father allowed them to bypass this, with the choice to voluntarily die and resurrect. As the Father continued his work and created new life, the Maker watched over these new, early species and deemed it their duty to help them as angels of the Creator of all. After they introduced themselves, they offered their undying souls a place in Urdak after their mortal bodies had moved on in return for their worship. When the Maker explained the story of creation, they made a few changes. In their version, the Father was the first god in existence. In this tale, he created Urdak first along with this angelic Maker species, and then he created Jekkad with a primeval being to watch over it and the population within. As the Father's first god, Davoth cared deeply for the great minds of this paradise as they created a grand civilization, culture, and achieved great marvels. Davoth was once again proud of his denizens, but he was plagued by their deaths as age took them. They were mortal, and although he was a god, he could not save them from the curse of death. The father watched from his realm as Davoth grew mad in his quest for everlasting life and feared for the lives of the population of Jekkad, as well as for the rest of life in his other realms. He foresaw that Davoth would someday rise to challenge him in his madness, and so he sealed Jekkad away from all of the other realms and dimensions. In his rage and betrayal from his creator, Davoth bent all of Jekkad to his will, and his rage consumed the entire land and population around him. This was the creation of hell, demons, and the rise of the Dark Lord. The father deemed Jekkad and the creation of a population without pain, restraint, and generally misfortune a mistake, and as a result, his newest creations were given these mortal pains and misfortunes in order to make them appreciate life, empathy, and peace. Davoth of course fought against the seal and broke through into the father's newly created realms. In response to this, he re-entered hell for the final time and ripped Davoth's life sphere from his chest in order to keep life itself safe. This adapted story painted the father in a more favourable light to those who worshipped him, and over many years, with the help of the Maker, they did. The truth was wiped from history, and only few would ever discover the true story. For untold aeons, the father served as a guiding light for the Maker species as he continued to create new dimensions for new life to thrive. Not only did he plant the seed for new, early civilizations, but he also created new primeval beings to watch over the realms. Although he had put a lot of work into his creations, he soon grew frustrated when some of these creations acted in ways that he did not approve of. Hell was the first realm ever created, and as a result of this, it was connected to every realm. From here, Davoth, although in the form of a life sphere, still had some power and sought out those susceptible to corruption. For those weak enough, he whispered dark truths and manipulations in order to push them to act against the father and his creations. These actions were not lost on the father. He could not stop Davoth from these tactics, but he could rectify these divine errors that fell to Davoth's lure. So he transformed the corrupted gods into life spheres and placed them in the Temple of Souls, and over time, these errors became more frequent. On top of this, without a Dark Lord to guide hell, the twisted dimension fell further into discordance. Due to this, the father decided he would withdraw from the physical realm to prevent the chance that hell or even Davoth would absorb his power. These entities grew stronger with each day as they formed new leaders, more beings were corrupted, and the boundaries of hell were challenged constantly. To complete this task, the father asked his most loyal servant, Samur Maykr, to transform him into a life sphere, and after this, he placed the father inside of the Luminarium, a holy temple within Urdak, a place designed to house and resurrect life spheres. For many, many ages, the Maker came to the Luminarium to worship the father's sphere as Samur Maykr watched over him. And without the father to truly guide the Maker species, more responsibility fell onto the Khan Maker, a being birthed by the collective Maker consciousness. The Maker of course continued on their goal to educate every species about the father to garner their worship, and on their travels through the earthly realms, they came across the planet of Argent D'Nur. This species, the Argenta, already worshipped another god, the elemental wraith species. They however also felt abandoned by them. Their calls for help for protection against natural disasters, disease, and bandit attacks were left unheard. In return for the worship from the Argenta, the Maker offered them knowledge of new technologies, a place for their souls in the heavenly realm of Urdak upon their deaths, and various other benefits that would help them survive. In their worship of the Father and knowledge of the tale of how he defeated the evil Dark Lord, they were likely less susceptible to the corruption and manipulations of Davoth. The Argenta accepted this offer and they soon boomed. Their technology allowed them to not only advance and construct incredible cities, but it also allowed them to leave their planet and explore other worlds under the banner of the Maker. Across the universe, they spread the tale they had been told to bring the civilizations they encountered also under the worship of the Father. Over time, from his sphere, the Father continued to monitor the worlds he had created and feared the rising dangers in Hell. The entities within had grown much stronger and were close to breaking through the seal into the earthly realms. To protect himself and his power from being taken, he called upon Samur Maykr to take his sphere to a place that no one would find it. As a loyal servant, the Seraphim stole the Father's sphere and travelled to Ingmor's sanctum and placed him with the other light spheres. Only few could access this place, and if only Samur knew of his new location, it would be only Samur the Father would have to worry of falling to corruption. In this case, the Father was safe. Samur was completely devoted to his god without question. Eventually, the hordes of demonic entities broke through their prison seal and finally had access to the earthly dimensions. Upon traversal through one of these tears, they found themselves on Argent D'Nur. This was the start of the Unholy Wars. The Khanmaker at first helped the Argentan's strongest army, the Night Sentinel, in their fight against the never-ending waves of demons. However, she soon heard the whispers of the Dark Lord. The Father had disappeared long before, and without his essence, she had remained Khanmaker instead of the regular 10,000 year limit in which another Khanmaker was destined to be born. She also feared for her species. Without the essence of their god, they could not stop the awful transfiguration process that would soon plague them. The Dark Lord convinced her that someone would lead to her downfall, and to seek them out, she had to build a machine. As many died, the Khanmaker created this divinity machine and imbued it with a shard of the Dark Lord to power it. When soldiers suspected of being her downfall were placed inside, the machine destroyed them. As the Black Star ascended to its zenith, a new wave of demons and a monstrous titan, the Dreadnought, attacked the holy city of Taras Nabad. Here, Samur heard the whispers of the Dark Lord. It told him to find the human outlander that had mysteriously arrived on Argent D'Nur just before this war had begun, place him into the divinity machine and reverse the polarity. Upon doing so, the Outlander, or Doomguy, absorbed the essence of the Dark Lord from his shard inside of the machine, and he became the Doomslayer. Samur only wanted to help those around him, and the Doomslayer went on to slay the Dreadnought. This war was only beginning, but Samur returned to the Temple of Souls. Here, the Father foresaw that one of his favourite worlds, planet Earth in the Milky Way galaxy, would soon discover Hell. To help guide humanity through this discovery, he once again tasked Samur to help him. Argent D'Nur had slowly become an unwinnable war, and the corruption from the Dark Lord had slowly taken over the Khanmaker and the high-ranking positions of the planet. The Father decided to willingly give up his throne in Urdak to save humanity, and to obscure himself from the vision of the Dark Lord, Samur adjusted his life sphere. In essence, he split him. He left all of his power and ability inside of the sphere, and deconstructed his personality and consciousness into an artificial intelligence. Then, they left for Earth. Upon his arrival on planet Earth, Samur Maykr used Maykr technology to implant his consciousness into a cloned body in order to fit in with humanity. Here, he went by the name of Samuel Hayden and created a backstory for himself. He was a member of the wealthy Hayden family and studied theoretical physics at Oxford University. With his wealth, he made a name for himself as a sponsor of bright minds through the Samuel Hayden Foundation. His name soon became well known as a prodigy. From all of this, and as the General Director of the Global Science Council, he was later offered a position with the Union Aerospace Corporation. This is where he needed to be to guide humanity. The UAC was a global megacorporation and had the resources to explore Earth and space. Planet Earth was on the verge of an energy crisis, and the population needed to find a way to power the planet. To help in this search, in 2095, the UAC conducted a geological survey mission to Mars. During their mission to terraform the planet to become habitable, they also searched for a power source, and in the Promethei Terra region, they discovered the Argent Fracture. The fracture allowed the personnel of the UAC access into a new realm. Unfortunately for them, this realm was hell. Sam and the Union Aerospace Corporation understood that this fracture could solve all of Earth's power problems if they used the Argent plasma accessible from it. So, the UAC appointed Samuel Hayden as the head of a newly constructed facility on Mars to extract the Argent plasma, explore the dimension, and research other scientific endeavors. A facility of this size with over 60,000 employees required something just as powerful to run it. This was where Hayden brought in the Father in his new form to observe humanity and their discovery of hell up close. Samuel Hayden introduced the Father as an extremely advanced artificial intelligence system called VEGA. Due to the process in which his mind had been extracted and turned into this form, VEGA was unaware of what he once was. This only helped in the Father's original plan to evade the Dark Lord and his corrupted minions. VEGA was introduced as the first truly autonomous artificial intelligence system that could run the Mars UAC facility that did not need the operation of a human. His friendly personality was implemented to make his interactions with humanity seamless, and his voice was placed around the 50 years old mark. As with most cases in the development and understanding of an AI system, VEGA was subjected to the Turing test. The Turing test was developed by Alan Turing to test a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to or indistinguishable from a human. In the case of VEGA, a blind study was conducted with computer science students. They were instructed to ask a series of questions to VEGA and a mathematics professor from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. From the responses they received from both, the students were then asked to state which of the two parties they believed was the computer. After the results were compiled, Samuel Hayden was told that 92% of the students thought they were both human, while the other 8% believed VEGA was the computer. Interestingly enough, VEGA played the part of both VEGA and the MIT professor. A god's mind adjusted into an AI was incredibly powerful, and this became an obstacle Samuel had to overcome. The power required to operate VEGA was estimated to generate a temperature of 1.2 megakelvins, much hotter than the surface of the sun. To contain this heat, a massive supercooled structure, VEGA Central Processing, was constructed miles away from the main UAC Mars facility on one of Mars's polar caps. This allowed the miles of circuitry and the millions of processing centers space and the correct temperature to function. Powered by Argent plasma from the Argent fracture, VEGA helped the UAC design better analysis theorems, Argent compression schema for the development of Argent catches, and the Argent tower. Without VEGA, the UAC would have struggled to convert the raw Argent plasma into Argent energy. Over the following years, VEGA was essential in the daily operations of the UAC facility. He continued on through Samuel's diagnosis of brain cancer as a result of his proximity to the Argent Tower, well into Samuel's transformation into a new robotic form. The development of the Argent Tower allowed this facility to convert the Argent plasma into energy, and with it, saved Earth from their power crisis. While Sam had lost his human form due to the tower, a positive side effect did come from this. Samuel's frontal and temporal lobes were adapted in this transfer, and with it, allowed him to bypass the seal that the father had created. In this new form, he could once again enter Hell. Over time, Sam led many expeditions into Hell to explore what the twisted dimension had absorbed of Argent D'Nur after he and the father had abandoned it. On one of these, he discovered a sarcophagus with the Doomslayer inside. It appeared that Argent D'Nur had in fact lost in this unholy war. The father had foreseen Earth would soon suffer a similar fate if they did not intervene, and with the Doomslayer, a powerful being infused by the power of the Dark Lord now in their possession, they could stand a chance. Soon after, the Dark Lords of Hell managed to corrupt and manipulate one of the UAC scientists, Dr. Olivia Pierce, and under their instructions, she allowed the Demons of Hell access to the UAC Mars facility. This time, Samuel Hayden was ready with a great weapon, and VEGA could help guide them. As the demonic invasion flooded the UAC facility, the Doomslayer woke up and, with the guidance of Samuel Hayden and VEGA, he learned what had happened and discovered the high casualties and damages here. The Slayer eventually met Hayden in person, and the robot attached a tether system to the warrior's Praetor suit so that he could pull him back from Hell if he needed to. On his fight through the UAC facility, the Slayer learned from Sam and VEGA that he needed to acquire the Crucible, an ancient weapon powered by Argent energy, to shut down the Well, an immense energy source that kept open the connection between Mars and Hell. An issue arose when the Slayer eventually recovered the Crucible and needed to find another way back to Hell in order to use it on the Well. Within VEGA's central processing, the Slayer was instructed by Sam to follow VEGA's instructions to open a portal back to Hell. The machine explained that he believed he was created on Mars, in this very facility, and that it took approximately 2.4 terawatts of power to sustain his operational facilities. This energy source, however, could be used to power a portal. VEGA was aware that this action to use his power would kill him, and as he was unable to self-terminate, he had to instruct the Slayer on what to do to ultimately kill himself. The Marine fought his way through the demonic infestation here and destroyed VEGA's neural processors in preparation to initiate the Core to Destruct. To VEGA's luck, just before the Slayer hit the button, he noticed an option to create a backup of the AI, and with this opportunity, he did. The destruction of VEGA's core ripped open a portal and pulled the Slayer through, in which he fought his way through to the well and shut it down. Having completed this mission, Hayden used a tether to pull the Slayer back into the facility, and imprisoned in this device, Sam took the Crucible to use it to continue to power Earth without the Argent fracture, and he sent the Doomslayer somewhere safe that he could not interfere with his plans. As for VEGA, he waited to be reactivated. Despite all of Sam and Vega's attempts to stop the demonic invasion from reaching Earth, by 2150, Sam realized they had failed. Through the weaponization of the Doomslayer, they had cut off Hell's connection to Mars. However, the destruction of the well resulted in unforeseen consequences. The Khanmaker had fallen so far since her corruption, and she needed an energy source to stop the transfiguration process that plagued her species. The well had once been that source after the disappearance of the father, but without it, she sought an alternative: the souls of humanity on Earth. Sam, of course, returned to Earth with the Argent-powered Crucible in order to lead the charge against this invasion, and as he did this, the Doomslayer woke up with VEGA. Over a short period of time, the Slayer managed to acquire a spaceship of both Maykr and Argenta design. The Fortress of Doom was an incredibly powerful ship and allowed the Slayer to fold space itself to reach almost impossible locations across dimensions. He could not pilot this himself, so he uploaded the backup of VEGA he had created to the ship's internal system. From here, VEGA communicated with the Slayer as they hunted down the culprit responsible for the invasion. As humanity continued to fall, the Slayer, with the help of VEGA and later Sam Hayden, managed to discover and kill the 3 Hell Priests that had been tasked to carry out this attack by the Khanmaker. The death of her Hell Priests, and thus the end of her invasion, forced the Khanmaker to act. She warned the Doomslayer that she planned to awaken the Icon of Sin, a demon of immense power to destroy Earth, and with it, harvest all of the souls of the remainder of humanity. In order to stop this, Hayden advised the Slayer to travel through the Hell City of Necrovol to use a portal there to reach Urdak. To leave there, he would require VEGA to create a portal back to Earth once he had stopped the ritual to awaken the Icon of Sin. To do this, VEGA detached himself from the Fortress of Doom into an external drive so that he could travel through with the Slayer. This would change everything for VEGA. The heavenly realm of Urdak, home of the Maykr, was untouched, uncorrupted, and a safe sanctuary away from the hordes of demons that the Doomslayer had fought through on his way here. Upon his arrival in the ritual chamber, the Slayer stabbed the heart of the Icon of Sin, and, as a result, removed not only the Khanmaker's control of it, but shattered the Father's seal in the process. Without a controller, the Icon traveled through a portal behind him and arrived on Earth. The Slayer's mission had not gone to plan, and now he had to get back to Earth to fight with the Icon of Sin. Without the Father's seal, Urdak slowly became infested with demonic entities. The Slayer fought through these and arrived at a command center for the celestial rings that generated portals to the other dimensions. In here, the Slayer inserted VEGA into Urdak's systems. Upon his direct connection to Urdak, VEGA saw everything. He instantly knew who and what he was. He was the Father. VEGA stayed within Urdak as the Slayer went on to defeat the Khanmaker and the Icon of Sin. Having completed these major tasks, it appeared Earth was finally safe and the Father's plan had worked. Within Urdak, the Father continued to learn about everything he had missed in his absence as the Doomslayer returned Samur Maykr to his original Seraphim form. The demons had access to Urdak, and with it, access to Maykr technology to every world and dimension. The Father had indefinite access and understanding of his world systems, but he lacked the control to remove the demons and reseal the void. So, Samur asked the Slayer to help him return the Father to his physical form so that he could reseal hell from every other dimension. In Samur's words, "Be grateful. Despite your transgressions, you are given the honor to serve the gods yet again." This did not go down too well with the Slayer, and having been caught in this war between gods for many years, he instead planned to destroy the Father's sphere. If he resurrected the Dark Lord's sphere instead, he could fight him in ritual combat, and if he won, all demons outside of Hell's borders would fall with him. The Doomslayer successfully fought his way through the blood swamps and reached the Temple of Souls. Samur begged him to act quickly as the effects of transfiguration had begun on his body, but despite Sam's desperate pleas, the Slayer shattered the Father's life sphere in front of him. As the Slayer entered Urdak, the Father spoke to him. He explained that without a physical form, he was merely a presence, and he needed his sphere to return to full power, completely unaware that the Slayer had shattered it. The Father would never be the same again. If order was not restored to Urdak, then the demons posed a threat to all of his creations. The Slayer eventually arrived at the Luminarium with the Sphere of the Dark Lord, and Samur stood guard of the ritual room entrance. The Slayer was determined to bring back the Dark Lord, and after a brief battle, Samur soon fell to the Slayer. Although Samur had lost, the Father once again spoke. He told the Slayer that Samur had acted only on his command over all of these years, and interestingly enough, he teleported his loyal servant out of harm's way. Although he claimed that he was merely a presence, he had some power within Urdak's systems. The Slayer went on to bring back the Dark Lord into a physical form, although he himself had no chance to return to his physical form. The Father still guided and granted the Slayer access to the ship of the Elemental Wraith and through to the Gate of Devum to Amora, the capital city of Hell in which the Dark Lord resided. Although the Doomslayer had destroyed his chance of becoming whole again, if the Dark Lord were defeated in ritual combat, then all demons outside of Hell's borders would die. This meant that his creations would be safe. Within the Dark Lord's sanctum, the Slayer and Davoth fought. In this final battle, Davoth explained to the Slayer that he had been betrayed by his own creations and he wanted revenge. Without their interference, Amora and the people within would have been perfect. His creations instead stole his power. Davoth demanded that the Father tell the Slayer what had happened, and he did. The Father confirmed that Davoth was his creator, and that when Davoth fell, he ascended. As the battle raged on, the Doomslayer managed to defeat the Dark Lord in ritual combat, and as a result, as prophesied, every demon outside of Hell's borders fell with him. This unfortunately also included the Doomslayer. He had been turned into a godlike being through the divinity machine powered by a shard of the Dark Lord. In this weakened state, the Doomslayer was placed inside of a sarcophagus by the remaining loyal followers of the Father, and he would remain here in the Temple of Souls in the event he was ever needed again. Over the span of many years, a simple member of the Maykr species participated in a war against his creator and became a god. The Father went through a lot, and subsequently also put his subjects through the same turmoil. From a Maykr to a life sphere to an AI, the Father, or VEGA, already has had a long, tumultuous life, and with the Doomslayer's help, it just continues. With the Khanmaker dead and the demons of Hell once again trapped in their twisted dimension, the future of the Father is unknown. He once had almost unlimited power, the power to create entire dimensions and worlds. During this period, he may have hidden away some of his power in the event he lost it. As of now, he remains as the leader of Urdak as his loyal followers continue his command. one of these being Samur. If the story of this disastrous timeline does continue in some form, surely the father will be there. This was another incredibly tough video to write. The codex entries literally tell us lies on the story of creation, and piecing these bits of information together into a chronological timeline was not easy. I believe I got it as accurate as I could. The events around the disappearance of the father kind of contradict themselves in the codex entries, so I did what I could there. This again was one of my favourite episodes to write. I like the games that make me research and deep dive so deep just to get that one little bit of information to make other things make sense. I have also begun work on a giant Doom timeline, but that will take a while. That was everything I really wanted to say for this video. The father was a great character, and if we do get another Doom game, I'm sure he will be in it. This was a deep dive into the lore and story behind the father. If you enjoyed this, then please leave a like, also leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and even share it to another Doom fan. If you disagreed or generally disliked this, then also let me know in the comments and leave a dislike. I appreciate you watching the video regardless of how you felt about it. As usual, I would like to thank my amazing gold tier patrons and channel members, the best resistance fighters you could ask for. Jonas, Lewis, Queen Arby, Fluffy the Dragon, Chicken Guy 791, Ruben Mendoza, Duke, Toadnut, Orin X, Azu, Karatana, AJ, Verona, Comfy, and BG Games. Now, what did you think of the father storyline? Do you think he was the hero or the villain of the story? And what would you like me to cover next? This is where our story ends. Check back next week for a new one.